Hello, welcome to my channel, Jersey Shore Pondscapes videos. My name is Chris, and on this channel we talk all about just about every topic you can think of when it comes to koi ponds and water gardens. I have a whole mess of videos here with a ton of information for you guys. So if you're into the koi ponds and water gardens and stuff, please subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and check out a bunch of my videos. I'm sure they can help you out with a lot of different aspects of taking care and maintaining and understanding your pond. Today's topic is a little different, it's a little offbeat, but it's something that's really important, and I really wanted to talk about this and emphasize it, stress the importance of this to everybody, and that is what happens or what to do if there's a power outage. Okay, so let's just start off. Winter, we could have a bad snowstorm, okay? A branch comes down from a tree, hits a power line, knocks out your power. In the winter time, my ponds, I shut down. It's not a big deal for me. The only thing I have running in ponds in the winter time is either a heater and or an air pump, okay? Cold water holds more dissolved oxygen than warm water does. Okay, so the problem of a power outage in the winter is not as bad as it is in the summer. Another thing in the winter that happens is if that water is really cold, the fish's metabolism is really slow. They are not breathing as much oxygen, they're not as active, okay, and their water holds more oxygen. So it's not as big of a deal in the winter. Your fish can survive a lot longer in the winter without any power, without any air pump going, all right? You don't want the pond to freeze over solid with ice, however, but if the power goes out, for a short period of time, when the power comes on, your air pump will get going again, your heaters will get going again, and you'll be just fine. Summertime is a completely different story. Depending on the size of the pond, how many fish you have, and how big your fish you have, will depend on how long you have with, that those fish will survive without air in the summer. Typically, the warmer the water, the less time you have. So if you have, a 90-degree day and a thunderstorm comes through and the power in your neighborhood goes out and you have no air going in that pond, no pump, no air pump, no nothing, and you've got a bunch of big fish in warm water, man, we may have a big problem, okay? It seems like every year I have clients here, there, somewhere that will lose fish due to a power outage in their neighborhoods. And it doesn't take long, right? You can have a thunderstorm one night, power goes out for a few hours, the next morning they go out to their pond and they have dead fish. All right, maybe not all of them. It's always the bigger ones that die first, all right? They have the highest oxygen demand. They're the bigger fish, they need more air. They're the ones that are dying first, always, okay? It's a really sad situation, and sometimes it's really difficult because what do you do, okay? So that's what we're gonna talk about. Obviously, the best answer is to have a generator. Whether it's a generator on your home that controls your whole house, make sure you have a line from that generator, a circuit on that generator or in your home that's going out to your pond, so that if the power goes out in the neighborhood, the power goes out in your house, your generator comes on, you have the ability to run your pond, okay? Even if it's at a lower level, okay? Instead of maybe 2 pumps running, you're just leaving 1 pump running. Even if it's just an air pump, right? A nice big air pump running, you're fine, okay? However, not everyone has a generator on their house. Now, you can buy a portable generator, all right? We don't need a big, gigantic, powerful generator sometimes, okay? We don't need to run 3 pumps, 2 UV lights, an air system, whatever. It might not be necessary to do that. All we might need to run is an air system, which usually doesn't take a lot of power, okay? But that little air system will save all your fish, okay? If you have, the ability to run a pump, awesome, okay? But we have to be able to, get air in that pond. So another thing is, my other thing is when somebody calls me and says, we lost power, and I'm worried about my fish, what should I do? My first question is, do you have well water or do you have city water? Okay. If you have well water and the power goes out in your house, you don't have a water hose to put water in the pond, okay? Because your pump runs off electric, okay? So you don't have water, right? You can't flush toilets, you can't, okay? So we can't use a garden hose. If you have city water, your water will still work, okay? We can get the garden hose out there to the pond. We can put a nice nozzle on the end of it, and we can prop that hose up on the side of the pond, and we can spray a heavy jet of water, into that pond to keep some oxygen going in as much as we can, all right? Now, the trick with that is, though, if we have city water and we're going to do that, all right, it's usually has chlorine, right, or chloramines in the city water. So we need to have on hand a bottle of dechlorinator so that as we're adding a lot of this water into the pond, we can add dechlorinator. Now, typically in the summertime, another thing we need to be aware of is that if your pond water, say, is 80 degrees, okay, if you have city water, the city water is usually pretty warm. It's not that big of a difference. And if we're diluting it into the pond, with a hose, a spray jet, it will dilute and mix temperature-wise just fine. But if we have well water, okay, and we're able to put well water in the pond, well water is very cold compared to the 80 degrees, right? Your pond might be 80, your well water might be 55, all right? Putting a lot of that water in fast into your pond, depending on the size of the pond, it might not be that great of an idea either, okay? Because it's a very big temperature difference we're putting in. But if it's a life or death situation for your fish, we need to get the water in there. Now, when I'm saying, use your hose and put water in a pond, I'm just not saying, hold your hose over the pond and let it go in. I want a nozzle on the end of that water, and I want a jet of water to really blow in there and agitate that water and add oxygen into the pond as best as we can. Okay? Now, let's say we have well water. We can't use our hose, and add a dechlorinator and add oxygen in with fresh water. We don't have a water supply either because we don't have power if we have a well, okay? So what can we do? Well, my best advice for you at that point is to get a 5-gallon bucket or some big buckets or some big pots or something, and go out to the pond and scoop water out of the pond and aggressively dump it back in, and keep doing it as much as you can. And you got to be out there every half hour doing that, okay? You have to get that water agitated and get oxygen into that water. It's really the only thing I can say to do to keep those fish alive. Now, it's a good idea to get a small portable generator and have it, okay? I have a couple clients that do have generators, a small, portable generator, and they bought it just for that purpose, okay? That if they had a power outage, they can use it for the pond. But what you need to be aware of is if you buy that generator, you know, and you get it home and it's brand new, and you put gas in it, you fire it up and hey, look, it's working. Okay, great, it works. And you put it away in your shed, in your garage, whatever. Let's say maybe you don't touch it for 2 years. All right? Now you pull it out of the shed, you have an emergency, you've lost power, you need to use it, you can't get it started. All right, the fuel in it may not be good anymore, okay? The fuel might be dried up in it, it might have evaporated, there's nothing in it, or the fuel is just bad. Over time, fuel goes bad and it won't fire up, it won't start. So you gotta make sure you have gas, okay? So just be aware of that as well, okay, that it's great to have a generator, but we got to make sure that it's always working, okay, so that when you do need it, you'll have it and it'll be ready to go. Yeah, so a few points it's really important, okay, that I wanted to stress to you, that you have to have a plan. You have to be aware of what you need to do if you lose power, because if you don't have a generator on your home, at some point in time, you're going to lose power. All right. And again, depending on how big your pond is, right, the volume of water, how many fish you have, how big your fish are, and how warm or hot it is outside, depends on, you know, how long you have that those fish will survive in the pond without any aeration. Okay. And it's not long. Now, another little trick I just want to tell you about is while we're talking about air pumps and stuff here. One thing that I always suggest to my clients, you know, when I build a pond, I usually include an air system into the pond as well. I always suggest that if you go away on vacation, to set up your air pump in your pond. If you're not running that air pump all season, all year, all summer, if you go away on vacation, bring out that system and set it up and put those air stones or whatever it is in your pond. And plug it in to a different outlet than your pond equipment is plugged into. Okay, plug it into something up at the house, run an extension cord. It's a secondary like backup safety thing, okay, if you're going to be away for a week, okay? If you go away for a week and something happens to your pumps, it trips the breaker, your pumps, your waterfall shut off, whatever it may be, and you're away for 3-4 days, when you come back home in the summer after your vacation, those fish are all going to be dead if there's no air, okay? So set up an air pump, and by plugging it into someplace else, if the breaker should pop on all your pond equipment, it's not going to shut off your air pump, all right? So plug your air pump in someplace else so that it's totally separate and it can just run. Get a good air system, okay? Don't buy a little cheap little crappy thing that they use for a little aquarium, blows little bubbles. Buy an air pump. We want a boil of water in that pond, not just some little air bubbles coming up, okay? We want to aerate that pond. And in the summer, when that water is warm, if you have a power outage and you have an air system, you're golden. That air pump is worth its weight in gold, okay, to keep those fish alive. Put your air stones down in the deepest part of the pond as you can, all right? Because the way they works is the deeper the water, the more oxygen it puts into it because it's turning over the whole volume of water, okay? If your pond is 1.5 feet deep and you put an air stone here, all we're doing is circulating this, okay? We need a big air pump to move a lot of that water. If our pond is this deep, now we're circulating all this water, okay? So don't put your air pump up here and just let it circulate on the surface on the shelf. Put it on the bottom and let it pull all that water up and circulate and aerate all that column of water, okay? So get a good air pump, something that's really going to provide a big boil of water and air bubbles in that pond, all right? it's well worth the price. Okay. Cheap little aquarium pumps. I have clients that do this. They buy these little aquarium pumps. You put them out there. It rains. They crap out. Like, and then when they are working, they got a little air stone or a little disc and a little 1/4 inch, little 1/8 inch tubing, and it just blows little bubbles off. No, we want to aerate. We want air. Okay, we want to move that water, circulate that water around. Okay, so. All right, that's my rant on that. I have a whole nother video on pond aeration, so you might want to check that out. But again, you know, winter time, all right? I shut down all my ponds in the winter. Not everybody does, but I do, all right? For my systems, I shut them down in the fall. I disconnect the pumps, the UV lights, I clean the filters, I blow out all the pipes, and I can sleep all winter without having to worry about anything freezing, cracking, breaking, whatever, okay? If there's a problem in the pond over the winter, like, all right, the power goes out in the pond over the winter, and you keep your pond running all winter, all right? Now you have water in all the pipes. You have water in the UV. You have water in the pumps. You have a disaster waiting to happen if all that freezes. Okay? If it's really cold out and you have your pump running, as long as you're pumping a good volume of water, typically the pipes don't freeze up too bad. All right? Sometimes they can, and the elbows and joints and ball valves can crack, but typically they will be okay. If that power goes out and it freezes, and now your pipes break, and you know, UV lights crack and break, and the housing split, and pumps, you know, blow apart, man, it's going to be really expensive to replace all that. So a power outage in the winter, if you run your pond, can be really bad. As far as equipment goes, maybe not so bad as far as you know, your fish and killing all your fish with oxygen, because again, the water's colder, it holds more air, they'll last longer, you know, in the pond that way, and they're not as active, the metabolism is slowed down, so they're not taking in as much oxygen. So the problem in the winter is not so much the fish as it is the equipment. Okay, summertime it's the opposite. Summertime it's your fish, all right, that we need to be concerned about. All right, so I hope that, you know, gave you a little information. Please, I mean, I'm doing this video because I really want to stress this to you, that it's really important to have a plan as to what you can do and what you're going to do if the power, if and when the power goes out. Okay, so, you know, it's a real shame to lose fish because of a power outage and you're not prepared. You know, your fish become your pets, and I mean, not only are they expensive, okay, you know, yeah, you're spending a lot of money on the pond and the fish and the plants, but they're also your pets, right? So, you know, we care about them in that respect too. So please, be prepared, all right? You never know when things happen, and keep those fish ponds safe, all right? So thanks for checking out the video. I really appreciate it. You know, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate the support, and I will continue to provide you with as much information and as many videos as I can, and hopefully I'll see you again in another video. Take care, have a great day. Thank you. Bye.